Welcome to Six Rings Accounting. I'm your host, Corey Idle. This is Lou Willard, and we are here today to break down the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers brand new looking offense. Lou, how are we doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How about yourself?
I think we're going to make it.
I think we're going to get ring number 7 here pretty shortly.
Well, we got to save it for at least a minute because I don't want to change the name of the show this fast.
We're just going to keep setting those rings on the side.
That being said, before we put the cart before the horse one more time, we have got to break down all of the moves this team has been making in the offseason. Is it fair to say right now, this is the most explosive Steelers offseason we've seen ever?
Well, one thing's for sure. I've been talking to a lot of my buddies. Some are actually in Pittsburgh, and this is definitely not your dad's Steelers.
No.
And this is definitely a big change from having Kevin Colbert, who did a solid enough job because they always seem to have a winning record. But Omar Khan does not seem to be playing around.
No, he is not.
He's looking to make waves and make big changes. And what he's done by replacing the entire quarterback room this early into the offseason, he's at least given the fan base hope of actually winning a playoff game.
And that, friends, was called a professional segue because breaking down the quarterbacks is exactly where we have to start today. You have Russell Wilson signed for a ridiculous $1.4 million?
1.2, you're giving him a raise. It's too early to give the man a raise.
He deserves it. He looks good in a Steelers uniform.
But he hadn't done anything yet.
He looked good in that Steelers uniform. Then, just to make it better, we went ahead and said, bye-bye, Kenny Pickett. We're going to go ahead and bring in Mr. Justin Fields.
You know, and that's the one I'm excited about. The Bears were nice enough to help us again. If they have any, if you know any Bears fans that's around and they want to give us any more players or any more high picks, we'll be happy to take them. They're a great franchise to do business with. So anybody looking to get over on a team, call your local Chicago Bears. But we're a team that's sitting there now, man. You figure they have 2 quarterbacks being paid roughly $4.5 million. And both of them are starting caliber quarterbacks, albeit both needed new starts. But yes. Pittsburgh's kicker, Chris Boswell, makes more than they do combined. So this is, it's a shot worth taking. Russ won it 2 years. They got him back to 1. Fields, they have the option they have to pick up. It's May 1st or May 2nd. They have to pick his 5th year up. Doesn't look like they'll do it because, if you do, he's guaranteed to make $25 million next year. Guaranteed. So I don't know if they'll do that. What you're hearing out of Pittsburgh is that they're not going to do it because if he doesn't play, who's going to give him the huge contract anyway? Sure. So they'll have a chance to sign him as a free agent again. And the Buccaneers have kind of helped with that by giving Baker the 3 years, $100 million. Mm-hmm. That's a great deal for somebody like Fields, who will then be going into his 6th year. As the time that contract kicks out, you're still looking at that kind of money, which is still 30-something million a year, but it's not 60. Right. Which is where the next round of quarterbacks will be getting. If they're any good, they're going to be getting about $60 million a year. So, but this is a huge upgrade over the quarterback room that we had. We had no true NFL starter. Everybody, and you get a lot of people. It was a couple of me and my buddies were saying once they signed Wilson that they were still going to sign Fields. And they laughed us out the building. That's just the dumbest thing you can do. I didn't see why it was so dumb. There's no guarantee that Russell's going to work. There's no guarantee that Fields is going to work. The guarantee I think I have in my mind is that they'll both be better than what we had. Which, that's like being the nicest guy in prison because they were so bad we couldn't get anything done. But yet and still, Pickett didn't want to compete, so he's gone. And he's still running off at the mouth. It just didn't work here for you, young man. Just move on to the next one. Pittsburgh will do what they'll do. And pairing these two up with Arthur Smith, it just shows you they're smarter than us because when they hired Arthur Smith, I was not a happy camper about it because I'm thinking, great, the guy still has a mustache and he couldn't use the players that he had in Atlanta. No. But then again, he also didn't have a quarterback. Right. So Desmond, that quarterback's not even there anymore. He's now in Arizona. So it's quarterback shuffling season. But pairing these guys up, hopefully we see the Arthur Smith that Coach Tannehill, Henry, and all those guys with a pretty basic outside of A.J. Brown, basic receiving core, and Tennessee offense still ranked between 5th and 10th in the league.
Now, let me ask you this. moving off a little bit from the quarterback position, because you brought up Arthur Smith. The style of his offense runs a lot more play action.
Yes.
Offensive line has been something you have been screaming about for, I don't know, the last 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
With that change, because the Steelers is 3 yards in a cloud of dust, we run it down your throat. So with that change coming off the play action now, rolling Russ out, rolling Justin out if you have to, does that impact how the offensive line is going to end up being either one, drafted, or two, completely reset to accommodate this style of play?
It'll absolutely change how they're drafted, because they're getting road graders now, because they are going to run the ball. They've come out and said it. They went to that last year, and believe it or not, they had an effective running game last year. They really did, but the problem was once somebody scored 13 points, they couldn't catch up because they didn't have a quarterback that could get them in the end zone. So if you were behind by 2 scores and all you're doing is running, the game's going by too fast. Right. But they're going to get big guys in there. It'd be nice to see them get that center out of Oregon, which we'll get into all that stuff at a later time. But they're going to draft guys that can move people. They're going to drive some. They're going to draft some big humans and go out and get some bigger humans. But if they can get Broderick Jones to his correct position of left tackle, replace the center and the right tackle, they could really be on to something. So, and with the couple trades they made, they're setting themselves up for success. I don't see how people are saying, well, they got to catch the Ravens. That's the only one I do understand, because they seem to keep winning, and beating everybody down. But keep in mind, they saying they got to catch the Bengals. No, I don't think they do. The Bengals have caught them, and they could. We don't even have to talk about Cleveland. I still don't think Cleveland's a threat. I just don't. They will find a way to brown it up, if you know what I mean. So they won't be a big issue. But for as good as that division is, it may have been the first time in NFL history where everybody finished above 500 in the same division. I could be very wrong, but I know in recent times that's the only one. And keep in mind, Pittsburgh went 5-1 in that division. And that was the toughest division in football. I think everybody can agree with that. And they still went 5-1 in that division with no quarterback.
So because we are Steelers fans, we always got to find a little something to complain about.
Oh, absolutely.
They've set up the quarterbacks beautifully. They've set up positioned themselves to set up nicely for the draft and the offensive line, address those needs. But then we have to talk about wide receiver. Yeah. Because now we have essentially one in George Pickens.
See, I think you have two, because Calvin Austin got hurt so early in the training camp that he was never able to get out and play. So that's one reason why they traded Deontay too, because they know they have Calvin Austin. And then another reason is we've all heard Mike Tomlin say it. It's one of his funniest Tomlin-isms, as we say, when he says, we want volunteers, not hostages.
Yes.
And Deontay was griping and crying about being there and his money, and so they just shipped him on out, just like they did with Pickett. They want volunteers, not hostages. But like I said, we were going over the roster earlier. Guys like Dez Fitzpatrick, Denzel Mims, this is their last chance.
Yeah.
Because Mims is in his 4th year. This is your last chance to do anything. And if he could stick and stay and be a 3, that's about the best he's going to be on that team. But they signed Van Jefferson. Not a huge fan of that signing. It's like that guy should always play with either Jared Goff or Matt Stafford. It seemed like he doesn't do anything when he played with anybody else. You know what I mean? But we'll see what they do. The receiver position in the draft is incredibly deep. So if they take a lineman in the first round, they can pick up a receiver in the second round. And with them having a heavy emphasis on the run, it also means they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, which they have the, Freiermuth and Connors and the big boy Darnell Washington at 6'7", 364 pounds or 264 pounds. That's your tight end. So they have the bodies and the beef to do that. So you really only need 2 wide receivers, even though you want to have 4. Everybody wants 4, but there's only so many positions on the team. So, yeah.
So I guess let me rephrase my question then. Does a lack of a confident number 2 receiver trouble you in any way? Or do you think Calvin Austin can really step into that role?
I think he will, but he's small. So he's got to be durable. So, yes, it's a concern. So if you can go out and get somebody, they don't have a long guy. Well, they have Pickens, but like we talked yesterday, you don't want to keep running him across the middle, even though you can get away with it because it's now this glorified flag football. No one can lay him out anymore. You can't get lit up going across the middle. But you still want to use him because his hands are so good. You want to make that your vertical threat with his size.
Right.
So they're looking at bringing in a Mike Williams. I guess I have to like somebody, but I've yet to get one of these free agents that would just blow me away. Mike Williams, huge talent, great body, great hands when he plays.
Right.
He's always hurt. So if you get him, the best ability is availability. Will he be available? So I'd like to see him pick somebody up in the draft, even though when you look at it, you recognize the names and go, man, Denzel Mims, Fitzpatrick, these guys, Van Jefferson, somebody do something. Yeah, I'm highly confident. Well, we know Pickens will, and I know Austin will, but you still need somebody else because just because they're deciding to go to this style of offense doesn't mean they're not going to be behind. That defense can only do so much as we saw last year.
Well, when we break down the defense, I think we're going to find out that they can do quite a bit now. But that's for another time. Let's talk more about the tight ends. Because as you brought up, you're running a 2 tight end set, even to a 3 tight end set with the guys you got.
Yeah, at times.
So that negates the need for that true number 1. Do you see Freiermuth overall production skyrocketing this year and him finally becoming that consistent guy, that dog at tight end that so many teams want?
Well, he was that when they had the quarterback that would throw him the ball.
Right.
I mean, we had Kenny Pickett. He averaged 6.3 yards an attempt. You think that would be him throwing to the tight end all the time, and it wasn't. I don't know who he was throwing to, but 6.3 yards, that's not going to win you any games. Freiermuth was looking pretty good when he had a guy that would throw him the ball. Mm-hmm. Russell Wilson will throw him the ball. Fields threw it to, what's his name?
Cole
Kmet. He threw him the ball. So they're going to get peppered with the ball. The Pittsburgh is going to stick to that middle of the field. They're going to stretch those linebackers, and they're going to pound at them. So if you could stretch them with that and get those quarterbacks on the edge or Jalen Warren on the edge, they're going to be a lot more fun to watch on offense than they have been for the last 3 years. And that's just the reality. It can't get worse. I mean, did you watch it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was bad.
Well, at times I watched it like through my fingers.
Oh no, you got to open all the way up and just watch it. You got to absorb, but you got to take it all in.
Once Matt Canada left, I watched a little bit more.
So did he. That was one of the most, as my old high school coach would say, that was one of the most putrid offenses I've ever seen. How do you not have any pass plays designed to go to one part of a field?
It's sad.
But you know what? It's a memory now.
Yeah, that's right.
He's gone.
They are in the past. Let's talk about some of the free agents that are available for you. For right now, in the wide receiver category, we have Mike Williams, Hunter Renfrow, Allen Robinson. You can go down that road again if you have to. Odell Beckham, who's probably going to sign. Tyler
anywhere
Boyd
else is fine.
Being the main rumor.
Yeah, he wants to come to Pittsburgh.
Do any of these guys get you excited? Because I
would like Tyler Boyd.
I know what you have to be a receiver in Pittsburgh.
You got to block.
Is Tyler Boyd that dog?
Yeah, if he wants to come to Pittsburgh, and he said he wants to come to Pittsburgh, he will block. They don't have even Deontay Johnson blocked.
Yeah,
except for the one play that when he was already checking out, and then Warren told him about himself when he didn't block at all. But you get called to the carpet when you don't block, so they will block. But I would love to have a Tyler Boyd. I would love it. He's a super productive 3. Just look at him. I mean, it helps when you're out there with Chase. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you the third guy running around there. I mean, I might have been able to get open once in 17 games. I don't know if Burrow would have saw me. He'd probably been freezing me out. But I would have been open once.
He wouldn't. He'd be jealous of you.
Yeah, I would have been open once.
Yeah.
So
you could have done it. But
the rest of those guys really don't, they don't light a fire under me. I'm just ready for something new. It just seems like those guys are all recycled, regurgitated like they do a lot of these coaches.
Right. However, They're good bodies. They've played the position, not just being a receiver position, but that number 2 or even a number 1 in some cases. Guys like DJ Chark, Paris Campbell, Josh Reynolds. To me,
Paris Campbell has since signed.
Your low cost.
Yeah, Campbell's off the board. I think he's signed with somebody now. But like you said, DJ Chark, he's another one that I wouldn't mind having. They're not, because these guys you're naming, they're not problem guys. They're good locker room guys. And they're NFL players. Like I know that sounds like a true Pittsburgh fan going, they're NFL players, but they're not going to cause you any problems. They're going to do their job. Yep. But I mean, looking for game breakers at this point, like we need a reset. They have to take advantage of this. You might sign Russ again. And they're not, he wanted to up front, they didn't give him to. You may sign him to that extension after that first year. But you want to do the same thing with Fields, and if Fields hit, you have a quarterback for the next 12 years. So you got to take advantage of this defense while you have it. Their defense will always be good, but there's no more TJ Watts coming. There's no more Cams coming. Minka, you got to win while you got these guys. You got time for Porter as long as you pay him when it's time to get paid. So. Sure. But that's where they are. I think they'll find some guys. They always do. Who knew what Juju was going to do when he got there? And he had a nice career when he was in Pittsburgh.
Very true.
So they'll pull somebody out that you probably hadn't even heard of.
Pittsburgh way.
That's what they do. They tend to do that a lot.
And I am available if you need anybody.
No, we need players.
Oh, I could squirt water. I could squirt water.
We have enough. We have enough assist. We have enough help on the the training staff side and the water side.
No accounting help needed.
No accounting help.
Darn it.
You stay away from the salary cap.
I miss my window.
You stay away from our salary cap. It's complicated enough, and Omar seems to have it down.
Oh, it's so sad but true that I just don't math. All right, so now we have to bring up what is probably the most uncomfortable part of this conversation. The running backs.
Yeah,
there's no problem.
No problem, man.
We're solid.
They might want to flip them a little bit. Give 30 a little bit more run. But when you look at Najee, he's had 1,000 yards every year behind, quote unquote, a bad offensive line and a bad system. But when you're playing this many games, it's I don't want to say it's not hard to get 1,000 yards in the NFL because there's NFL players on the other side of the ball trying to tackle you too. But so he was not a bust as a draft pick. And that's why when you look at people and some of these, because you go to all these sites and we'll hear it on our show too. Mm-hmm. Why would you do this? Why would you do that? That's dumb. That's dumb. Like we passed up Creed Humphrey. No, you didn't. You chose somebody else who currently starts. Passing up a guy is saying you passed up Mahomes and you took Heath Schuler in the first round and Mahomes was sitting there and got drafted after him. That's passing up a guy because this guy did not work out. Right. If the guy is working out, you didn't pass on anybody. You just chose that guy instead of this one. And that's what a lot of people lose sight of because everybody wants the shiny new truck, the shiny new car, the shiny new vehicle. And everybody, including me, wants a quarterback. And I feel like now that you got 1.5, Russ got another good year or two if he's motivated. And if he's not, he's going to be a nice backup. Because Justin Fields is motivated. Yes, he's just looking for an opportunity, and he has one. But he's on his 4th coordinator in 4 years, too. So for him to be able to sit would be great. But, as far as the running back position goes, they have 2 really good tailbacks. They could pick up a guy off the practice squad if one of them get dinged up. They no longer carry a fullback. Part of that's because you have the 4 tight ends. Mm-hmm. So they'll just come and play fullback. So that's why you've seen guys like Derek Watt no longer on the team. He's now since retired. But the backfield that's one of the most solid positions we have. One of the few teams in the league that's blessed to have 2 good running backs. A lot of teams have a good one, but they have 2 good ones. 2 good ones. So, But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do you see them making any more moves?
As far as
before the draft. Draft doesn't count.
Before the draft? Yeah, I really do. And a lot of it, I think you'll start to see it. It'll be on the line if they do, because they got to know where they're going with that first draft pick. They got to know if they have to take, a tackle or that center. If it comes down to it, I think they're taking the center. I would bet that 100 times out of 100. But or if they can find you a Mike Williams, because they like Mike Williams. They like Tyler Boyd. If they can get one of them in the building, they will. But because they've traded for a safety, they traded for a corner. They still have Corey Trice, junior. Like he was going to get some time last year and he got hurt, so he was like Calvin Austin. They got hurt so early, they didn't really, get to show up and play. But yeah, so if they make any moves, I'd have to say it's still going to be offensively because they're just trying to completely reboot the thing to give Arthur Smith every chance to be successful. Because Tomlin's been there. This is what, year 18 coming up?
Yeah.
So he's tied his rest of his coaching to these quarterbacks and this offensive coordinator. Because the Roonies have come out and said, we're tired of losing. We want to win.
So we've been incredibly optimistic. And real quick before the show ends, I want to know what does concern you about this offense. Where could this go wrong?
Arthur Smith. Yeah, you got to have somebody to turn them loose. I think they have the skill position players. It's easy. The easy one to say is injuries. Well, every team, if you get injuries, you're done. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the offensive play scheme. I know what the scheme is, but you got to have guys that can execute it, and he's got to turn them loose and let them play. They were so bound up the last under Canada, you never gave yourself a chance. So if you can do that, because you're going to have to score to win that division. And we'll worry about the rest of the AFC later. You got to get out of your own division. So, but yeah, I would say Arthur Smith, if he, stinks it up at the scheming like he did in Atlanta, it's going to go bad.
Fair enough. You heard it here first. Arthur Smith, it's all up to you. 64 points or get out of town. For Lou Willard, I'm Corey Idle. We will see you next time on Six Rings and Counting.